What's the win total these days? It's still 4.5?
Oh, yeah. You going over?
I am going over.
Oh, yo.
So that's a no. You're taking the under?
I'm not interested.
Okay, but that's fine. But now you got to pick it. You're going over or under?
I would probably go under. I think this team's going to suck again this year.
Now, why? Why is that? Because they don't have any good players? I mean, come on.
No, they're going to take too long to get to Drake.
Is that it?
Yeah, is that your only reason? They have the whole roster sucks? So look, no. What you just said is right. If they don't get to Drake Maye until December,
take too long.
If they don't get to Drake Maye until December, they're screwed. We've come to realize this. I say we. Maybe I'm just late to the train on this because I was ready. If they went in free agency and got Calvin Ridley and Tyron Smith, I'd be sitting here pounding the table going playoffs.
I'd be with you.
I would be saying playoffs because I think getting rid of Bill and getting rid of Mac, there's a little bit of bounce back. I think the team was done with Bill. I think Bill was done. And Mac was horrendous. It's going to be hard to do worse than Mac a year ago. So I think automatically you're getting a little better there. And then if you really added a receiver in the room, even if he's not a true number one, he'd be your number one and a competent NFL receiver, and you added some help on the O-line, I'd be pounding the table for the postseason. But instead, I'm like 6 wins now. But you look at all the various rankings. You know, I didn't check today. Maybe Jeremy Fowler did another position group today. I forgot to look at that. But he's been going through ranking all the position groups or having insiders in the league, coaches, GMs, scouts, executives, ranking the top players at each position. You know, Ramondre Stevenson, 24th running back. Matthew Judon, 19th edge rusher.
He did tight ends today, by the way.
Can you check real quick? Where's Hunter Henry? You get any votes? Look that up real quick. Christian Barmore, 16. Kyle Duggar was in the top 10 at safety. He was 8. Jabril Peppers got a vote. He was 25.
Hunter Henry also receiving votes.
Okay.
Wow.
Noah Fant, Luke Musgrave, Dawson Knox, Tyler Higbee, Hunter Henry, the very last
There he is.
Okay. How many honorable mentions?
There are Jake Ferguson, Trey McBride, Pat Freiermuth, Cole Kmet, Kyle Pitts. 5.
Okay. So he's like the 20th tight end?
Yeah, about
the 20th tight end. So again, and on top of that, Bill Barnwell, not league inside information, but just his view, had the Patriots skill players, receivers, tight ends, running backs, 31st out of 32, only ahead of the LA Chargers. I mean, this year really is about Drake Maye. If Drake Maye can play like C.J. Stroud could play, well, then everything changes. If he doesn't get on the field or he sucks, then this team is going to be horrendously bad. And I do think Mayo is a part of that. How do you feel about Jerod Mayo this year?
I'm happy.
Obviously not great.
Well, I'm actually happy for him.
Yeah, sure.
Bigger than football. You know, just the fact that this organization was willing to hire him and give him the opportunity to become the first black head coach in franchise history, he already won to me. But giving him benefit of the doubt in terms of coaching, I understand he's a rookie head coach. All I need from him in year one is not to crash the car. You must, at the very least, keep the defense status quo. We understand they had injuries last season. So assuming health, this should be a very good, with a potential to be elite defense. I need to see that from Jerod Mayo. If this defense, unless they are decimated by injuries, which what are you going to do? But if this defense...
In fairness, real quick, they kind of were last year.
That's what I'm saying.
Judon and Gonzalez, and they were still a good defense.
That's my point. So
I'm saying...
Well, yeah, but that's Bill Belichick. I'm not going to hold him to that.
Even with some injuries, last year they were still...
I'm not going to hold him to that. I need a healthy defense. But we all assume... No one goes into a season saying, all right, when we get hurt, what are we going to see?
Right.
Let's all, for the sake of this conversation, before we even get to training camp, assume that this team's healthy, right? I need the defense to maintain that level that it was at last season, even with the injuries. I cannot have a drop in defense. If I do, that's on Jerod Mayo. But I'm going to give him that. Offensively,
that is holding him to the Belichick standard, though, isn't it? You're saying
if they're healthy,
drop off.
If they're healthy and they maintain what they did last season, being decimated with injuries.
I don't think Belichick last year is an unfair standard to hold a new coach to. You know, I don't think he was good last year. Like the defense was fine.
Okay, but
I think it could be. I think if this defense is decimated again and they suck, I'm going to give credit to Bill Belichick.
Right. So to Travis's point, the defense was good last year. You want to see that maintained.
Yeah.
But you're okay with May. That's what you need to see. That's your standard for him this year.
Must.
Okay. I want to see more wins. And so I think we're kind of saying the same thing. I'm just drawing the line in a different place. You want to see it not fall off a cliff on defense.
That's right.
I want to see another win or two. That's why I set the line at 6. Tommy Curran, by the way, has been doing this series, and he did it with quarterback. He did it with wide receiver. The third installation was head coach. And normally I've highlighted his best-case scenarios because I find those the most interesting. I read his Mayo one, and I found the most interesting to be the worst-case scenario. He does best case, worst case, and most likely. His worst-case scenario really does not sound all that far-fetched, which is scary. He says it's chaos. The feeling of post-Belichick liberty results in slippage everywhere else. A sluggish camp for the offense comes in large part because the offensive line wasn't sufficiently addressed. Worse than being unproductive, the offense, in particular, looks unprepared. Too many mistakes, too long at the line of scrimmage, too many people trying to learn too much from people they've never worked beside before. Defensively, and this gets to your point, Travis, the team backslides. And there's grumblings that this isn't the way we did it when Bill was here. Maye's development is stunted, and when he gets on the field, it's clear he's going to need a lot more work than anybody anticipated. And so that's what he lays out for Jerod Mayo this year. And I got to be honest, if Maye's not ready, the rest of those things I think are pretty realistic. So again, I'll say it for the millionth time. This year kind of all comes back to the rookie quarterback who I happen to like. But if I'm overrating that or I'm wrong, it's going to be an unmitigated disaster.
Yeah, and I think that's why Vegas has him there. I don't think that there's a lot of optimism that it's going to go in a good direction just because not only is it a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach and a rookie offensive coordinator.
Right.
They're all playing together. They're all trying to figure it out together for the first time in the same room. And I just think that that is a very, very difficult thing. You don't have – I know that Van Pelt's been in the league a long time and that you got McAdoo and some of these other guys who have been head coaches and have coached around a long time, but that's every staff in the NFL. That doesn't really impress me. If you're putting guys into a new position for the first time that they're not familiar with and they're not comfortable with and they have to lean on all these other people who are beneath them, it's just that seems like an easy way to have things get off the rails with no real way to get it back on. Like, who do you lean on when things don't go well in the first month? Or if Maye has a couple of bad games in a row and all of a sudden you're starting to look at this thing and think, all right, where do we go? With Belichick last year, they tried to get it back on track and they couldn't. And that was with Bill Belichick, who was the most stable, I mean, in terms of running everything, the most stable situation in the entire NFL. So now you're the opposite of that. And I just think that's a recipe for disaster. If it's not that, I feel like it'll be a miracle.
Yeah, it could be. This is the first time that the preseason has probably mattered here in a long time because all these reports, we're going to get great reports, too, out of training camp. We're going to say, man, today the offense, how many Mac Jones great reports did we get out of camp over the years, right?
Far too many.
We're going to get Drake Maye today was in command. He had everyone, blah, blah, blah. Look, when we get to August – and we're talking about Carolina, Eagles, Commanders, where we have real games that we can watch and we can see before we get to the regular season. That's where we're going to see a lot of this stuff because then we can clearly see, okay, this team's unprepared. This is a problem. Oh, this offense is stagnant. They're not creative. We're going to see a lot of this stuff in the preseason and have a better feel for it. But what I'm not going to do is fall for all these reports that we're getting now, whether it's good or bad. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm going to wait and watch the preseason.
I'm gonna live and die on these training camp reports. I can't wait. First preseason game, August 8th. We're going to get to training camp soon, right? Like a couple of weeks?
Yes.
We're going to get to that.